Hello, and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another amazing guest to reintroduce to you now. John LaSpina is a returning guest on our show. Be sure to check out his first and many appearances on episode 575, 582, 606, and 718 of Boundless Body Radio. John LaSpina is a passionate educator and advocate for the power of ancestral animal-based nutrition. After transforming his own health through the carnivore lifestyle, John dedicated his life to teaching others the simple, profound truth that optimal health and vitality are our natural states when we fuel our bodies properly. Through his popular YouTube channel, Carnivore Teacher Alpha, John has helped thousands rediscover strength, clarity, and freedom by returning to the foods we were designed to eat. His mission is to educate, inspire, and empower others to reclaim their lives with purpose, pride, and unstoppable power. His motto is eat well so that you can look and feel well and become the optimized version of yourself. He is the author of The Carnivore Teacher, a meat-based education for total transformation, the Carnivore Teacher Workbook, and his latest book, Processed to Death, The Truth About Ultra-Processed Food and How to Escape Its Grip. You can find John on YouTube at Carnivore Teacher Alpha. John LaSpina, my friend, it is such an honor to welcome you back to Boundless Body Radio.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here again.
Again, so many times we've had so many
Yeah.
great conversations. Technically, you were on one more time that we didn't even listen to the introduction. The interview that you and I did last year was one of my favorites, and so I always choose one of my favorite episodes to release on Christmas or right near Christmas when I know, like, for an original guest, it would be not as listened to, and that was the one I selected for that one. So even then, within the episodes that we've done, you've been on our show quite a bit more, even that. And I have to say, you're amazing at what you do. Being a teacher shines through so much in your content and everything that you do. You're just an absolute natural. So it's such a joy to be able to chat with you again.
It's my honor. Thank you so much. And we were talking backstage before, and I was telling you that I hear you every day because I listen to your podcast every day. So listening to you now, I just feel like it's a continuation of a discussion we just had.
But I'm sorry for you that you have to hear my voice that frequently. But I really appreciate you're keeping this dog and pony show going, man.
Ah, your voice is fine. Your voice is fine.
Thank you, my friend. Okay, I want to ask you about your channel. You went through a bit of a rebrand. Can you tell us about the new name, Carnivore Teacher Alpha? I really actually like it. Can you tell us about how you landed on that?
Sure. Well, when I first started this, like, I don't know, 7 years ago, I was the carb addiction teacher. I think our first interview, I was still under that title. Then when I went carnivore almost 3 years ago, I changed it to the carnivore teacher because I'm a retired middle school teacher. And then just recently, I I like to eat meat off the bone, right? I just like the part when I have the bone and I'm tearing the meat off. It just seems very primal. And everything about being a carnivore, not just the food I eat, but removing the toxins from my environment, exercising, getting sunlight, putting my bare feet on the ground outside, I feel primal. So I like the word alpha. I'm like, let me just add a word which doesn't take away the original. And I just decided to do that. And then I got some more tattoos to add on to
Man.
my alpha ID.
Oh my goodness. If you are listening and not watching, you are missing out on an amazing sleeve tattoo. And it looks like you're about to get the other one done as well.
I am.
That is some really, really good work that you had done, my friend.
Thank
That is
you.
a full commitment sleeve.
It is.
Yeah, wow. And you were saying you learned some lessons from your first time getting a sleeve to what you're going to do next time. Can you educate the listeners
Oh,
on
all right.
what they may want to think about when they're scheduling a sleeve
All right.
tattoo?
Nobody gets to hear this story, but you asked. So I already had some up here. You know, I had some from before that I had darkened because when you get the new one, it's going to be darker, lighter. I wanted to be even. And I did this in 3 sittings back to back. So 6 hours one day, go back the next day, 6 hours, go back the next day, 6 hours. And it was real heavy on the healing. It taxes your immune system and you're really tired afterwards. And I thought, okay, when I get this one done, which I'm going to get in a month from now, I'm going to just do a quarter or a third of it and wait 2 to 3 weeks, do another third, wait 2 to 3 weeks. It's going to be easier on my immune system and just the healing because you scab up. I don't know. You have a tattoo. I think you remember. It scabs up. You have to go through the shed. It's itchy. You go through all the little stages, and I just didn't want to be so hard on myself next time.
Good call. Yeah, I do have. I've got two tattoos. So I've got a tattoo on my back, which is a bicycle chain ring, and my original tattoo is a Live Strong on my arm, and it hasn't aged well in more ways than one because
It's
first
on
of
there.
all, like the yellow is completely sun faded. You can't even tell where the yellow was. And secondly, obviously, most people know what happened with the Lance Armstrong saga and him finding everybody finding out about doping. Now, I did this for the intention of my mom sending me my very first Live Strong band as she was going through cancer, and a letter that she wrote me explaining how important the movement was for her. So the meaning is still there. It's for my mom who passed away of cancer almost 20 years ago. But yeah, I it didn't age well in more ways than one. And then also I remember as I was asking somebody, who had a tattoo before getting my tattoo, like, does this hurt? What should I prepare for? And I remember him saying, like, it's just really annoying. It's like if you were to take, a butter knife or something and just scrape back and forth on the same place and you'd just be like super annoyed. And I felt like that was just about the best way to kind of explain it. It's not like a pain that's super acute, but it's just it gets a little old and annoying if you've been doing it long sitting for sure.
It does, and if you do it back to back 3 days in a row, it intensifies that.
Yeah.
That's another
Yeah.
reason I'm spreading it out on the next one.
The point about the immune system makes a lot of sense. I hadn't
And that's
considered that. So thank you for educating us about tattooing 101 when it comes to
sure.
sleeves. I want to revisit your very first book, Carnivore Teacher. What has been the response since you put that book out? Are you happy with the way things have gone? And yeah, what was the experience like of getting that out there since we last spoke?
Yeah, that's my very first book. This is my copy here. The response has been great. It's so great that it's on eBay now. It's being resold. I was looking on eBay and let me type in the name of my book, and it came up with two different people reselling it. First, I thought, should I be offended? Somebody's getting rid of my book on eBay, and then I looked that up. I Googled that, and it said if your book makes it to a secondary or a third sales place, that's a good sign that it's being used, it's being read, it's being resold. So I'm getting a lot of, and I could tell by my numbers when I pull up my data when I go into Amazon that it's being received very well. So that's why I decided, hey, that was kind of like my test book. I know how to write a book now. I'm really going to buckle down and write a thicker book, one that where I can really pour my heart into it and go in detail a lot more.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I'm the first book looks like what, 150 pages,
Yeah,
and the second
yeah,
book maybe like 250, 300,
yeah. Hmm.
quite a bit bigger. Yeah,
Hmm.
okay. Well, I'm really glad that the first one took off as well as it did because, again, the way you present information is really great. Before we move on to your latest book, can you tell us about the workbook and why you included that as well?
Oh, sure. And I'm not doing it with the second one, but the first one, I'm a teacher. I'm used to writing curriculum, right? And writing worksheets. So I thought, let me take the information chapter by chapter and do that many chapters and make a workbook so people can actually apply the concepts from each chapter. Applying meaning you read the question, you write how you do this in your life, list 3 things, 4 things, and so on, and then you have it written. You can tear the pages out, you can do things with it. I don't have a copy of that to show you right here, but I tried that, and that one's not selling as well, but it sold a few copies, and I went through the process. And then I also did my first Audible with that, with this microphone that I have right here. So right here where I'm sitting. I did the Audible and went through the stages of getting that out. And man, was that a headache, but I learned how to do that for the second one.
Amazing. Yeah, no, well, you did a great job, and that's the way I consumed your first book, was through the Audible, and you did a great job reading it. Your voice is really good, your intonation is really good, and then just feedback from the workbook. Maybe it didn't sell as many copies, but I'm sure you got great feedback for the people that took it and actually like wrote it in and followed it.
Um, I didn't get feedback on that, or maybe I'm not looking for the feedback on that because
Got it.
I've been so busy doing the other books. But maybe I'll check into that and see if I'm not getting. What I need to do is ask people to write, like you wrote this wonderful review for the Audible, and I thank you so much. It was just this raving, shining review. I need to ask people to leave a review. And that's how it gets resold and rebranded, and how people see it more. So maybe I
Yeah.
need to do that with the workbook as well.
So important for everybody out there that's listening or watching. Be sure to review the things that you really value and love. It really doesn't take that much. You can do it on your phone while you're out on a walk. And if you just like pick one thing a day to like review and leave some love for, it really makes a big difference for people out there. So I really like that. I love studying Stoicism. And I have for several years, and this is the second time I bought this book, but this is called a Handbook for New Stoics. It's another workbook that, takes a concept every single week and has a lot of great information from the Stoics. And then you have to write things down, lessons you're thinking about. And to me, it makes a big difference to put some intention behind things. I'm not the best at journaling without a cue. Like I wouldn't just sit down and like write a book the way that you do,
Right.
but it's nice to have the cues. And I'm sure the workbook is very helpful for a lot of people out there. So again, if you're listening, be sure to review John's book and review the workbook if that's something you purchase as well, because it does make a big difference. So thank you for sharing that. And again, before we get into the new book, update us on your carnivore journey. Are you still carnivore? How do you practice these days? Any side effects or anything that you've added back in that isn't 100% quote unquote like carnivore, but you still consider very much part of the carnivore lifestyle?
Okay. Coming this January will be 3 full years that I've been pretty much, they say 70% of animal-based products or more is considered hypercarnivore. And I think I'm at like 95, 98% because I do use mustard sometimes or whatever. But I've been carnivore that long. I had that kidney stone a while back when I was keto. And since then, I have been dumping oxalates in waves, but each wave is much less dramatic. I just feel a little ache here and there. I know it's oxalate dumping. I'm still doing it. So that's a big talk that I use when people ask me about oxalate dumping. I just go into it and explain that you're going to keep doing this until it leaves your body. So I'm still oxalate dumping. Um, what if I tightened up? I bought that grill that you had. Is yours the Bighorn?
The bighorn,
I have the
yeah,
Bighorn.
man.
I got it. It was like $190 or maybe 210 or something, much cheaper than the other one. I use it almost every single night. I love it. I love my steak. So I've been cooking more food on that, my meats. Um, I have been having a problem with cortisol in the middle of the night, waking me up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm over 60 years old. I'm a male. And this started happening like about 7 or 8 months ago. Just every night, like clockwork, I'm wide awake. I'm like, why is my circadian rhythm out of whack? And I found out that a lot of carnivores, this happens sometimes. So what I did is I bought a light, a blue light, not the red ones, not the infrared ones, but a blue light. And I get up like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and before I go to the gym or my bike ride, I put this blue light on, and it's really super bright, and I have it on for the first 30 or 45 minutes as I'm waking up. And then I also took your lead and I bought some grounding sandals and I've been walking with those. It has a little rivet on the bottom. I love them. And I'm grounding more, I'm getting more sunlight. And within 1 week of putting that sun in my eyes, as soon as I woke up, um, I don't wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning anymore.
Wow.
Isn't it amazing? So I Googled how to do this and I reset my circadian rhythm. So that got affected and I changed that. I don't know if that has to do with my carnivore, my age, or a combination. But I'm chugging along. I have never felt so alive and alert and happy. I look at other 60-year-old guys my age and I just feel like Superman. I feel like I'm in my
Yeah.
20s. All right.
Yeah.
Hence the tattoo. And I'm not going back.
No, and we've hung out in person at Hack Your Health 2024, and yeah, you don't look like a 60-year-old at all, or 59-year-old last year. Like you've got so much vitality and energy, and you're super fit and very friendly and happy. I just noticed that in your temperament. And I was going to ask you this at the end of the conversation, but since you mentioned, I'm going to ask you now. There's a bit of a trend in our community where people who have been long-term carnivores, been promoting carnivore for a very, very long time, are starting to kind of leave the community and to be very loud about that on social media. And I'm getting a lot of questions. People that have been carnivore for, a decade plus, and now are leaving and saying like, oh, I missed the fruit. And one of the things you mentioned, hormones, is one of the top things I hear about people who have been carnivore for a while. Maybe their hormones feel like they're out of whack, or it could be thyroid, it could be a weight loss stall. I hear all of those every time. And they added in carbohydrates, namely honey, fruit, white rice, and they start to feel a lot better. What do you think about that? Like, do you have any comment or observation about that?
It's an interesting trend, and I've seen that too. And I made a video about this, but I was kind of responding to a Dr. Robert Sivas video in my video because he highly recommends that you add carbohydrates back in to get your A1C because you're not sensitive. Apparently, you've got to be more sensitive to carbs, and I refuted that in my video that we didn't do that hundreds of thousands of years ago. Our ancestors didn't need to just add carbs, and we didn't even think about it. We just ate meat, fish, and eggs, and we exercised because that's what we had to do thousands of years ago. Um, I believe people are adding it back in because it's a trend, just kind of like when you saw the LMNT and the maltodextrin, everybody started making videos about it. I just think people are just making videos about it. I really don't believe a lot of carnivores are really leaving carnivore. I mean, they can add some carbs back in. I think we should stay under 20 total grams per day, maybe 30. Basically, you can't be a zealot. You can't tell people this is what you have to do. If it makes you feel better to have a little bit of carbs, try it and see how you feel. I don't think we should be adding a ton of carbs and a ton of fruit because it glycates. It causes inflammation. It's what we teach. What sugar, what excess glucose does to the body. Why do that to ourselves? Remember a little while back, people were talking about the sugar diet. You know,
Yeah.
it's the same concept. Now, one of the things I learned when I was looking up for cortisol for me waking up at 3 a.m., one of the suggestions was right before you go to bed or 30 minutes before, have some carbohydrates, a little bit under maybe 5 or 6 grams, so that your I guess your adrenal glands, your body sees that, your liver sees that and doesn't want to make cortisol because it has a little bit. I mean, I really don't know the science, but if it basically, Casey, it boils down to, if people are doing it, if you're adding a little bit and you feel better, go with it.
Yeah.
But just keep the seed oils and the enormous amounts of carbs and ultra processed crap out of the diet is my
Yeah.
recommendation.
No, I love that. And look, I don't think either one of us are here to yuck anybody's yum. If something is working for somebody, I think
Right.
both of us are all for it. I also will go back to what you said earlier, where we both have a similar or the same definition of a hyper carnivore in nature. We don't need to worry about if somebody's bringing in more carbohydrates. If it fits underneath the 25% or so plant foods, like sure, whatever fits in there, I can still call you a carnivore and not get too worked up about stuff. But it's so again, I see and I want people to have success that they do other things. But then, I've been talking to Courtney Luna. We just recorded an episode, and she said, she saw the same thing. She got confused by it. She brought in carbohydrates again. It reignited her carbohydrate kind of addiction, and she's up 20 pounds, and she's
There you
trying to
go.
get that off again. And so you hear it of all kinds, and that's what I get concerned about when certain influencers are saying bring this back and it's going to be amazing. I don't know. It's tough. It's a really tough one. I think your suggestion is really valid. Like if you're not feeling optimal, maybe if you want to try a little bit, start really slow, pay attention to how you feel, be very honest with yourself, without going, full swing into something like the sugar diet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we need to just, you mentioned this. You mentioned this a lot in one of your videos. You talk about this person who, I don't know if I'm going to get it right, help me clarify. A person who, if they add a little bit back in, they go into, I don't know if they have a mental issue, they go into depression, and they have to do it. They have to keep their carbs at a certain amount, or it just pushes them into manic depression or something like that. I forget what your example was, but everybody's different. That wouldn't do that to me, but it's going to do that to this person. People who are super hypersensitive to certain things, the celiac, whatever the issue is, they know they can't have any, and maybe this person can have a little bit and it's fine. So it's actually a good thing to try. Try things, observe your body, learn a lesson. The best lesson in the world is by making mistakes. And then, okay, I'm not doing that again. Man, I put that in. Holy crap, for the next 3 days, I felt this way. I learned. I'm not going to do that anymore. Good
Yeah,
lesson.
great advice.
Yeah.
Great advice. I love that. Is the person you're talking about Robin Dobbins, my friend with bipolar?
That's, yeah, I remember you tell that you go back to that sometimes in some of your videos and you're talking about
Yeah.
that she can't, and people are
We
telling her
we
she has to, right? Was
right,
it, it's about
exactly.
the cholesterol, I think, about the saturated fat. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. She became a lean mass hyper responder when she
That's what
took
it was.
carbohydrates, stepped away from all the medications, really healed herself, and has now become like a really good friend. We hate giving her more airtime on this show, and she'll be stoked to know that somebody other than me brought her up this time. But yeah, she'll enjoy her time in the sun. Okay, so let's talk about your recent book, Process to Death. Great title, by the way. I really love the title. Um, Tell us why you decided to, write a second book. Obviously, your first one was very successful, went really well, motivated you. You learned that you could do it again. But what kind of story did you feel like was missing from Carnivore Teacher you really wanted to tell in your latest book, Process to Death?
And okay, thanks. And Process to Death is just kind of a continuation of the Carnivore Teacher. I just had so much more to say. And I didn't write this book to make it a diet book. I wrote it because I saw that people are being lied to about food on every level, from seed oils to sugar to fake fiber to food politics to medical nutrition guidelines, And then once I healed myself with the meat-based diet, I knew I had to put the whole thing together in one place. More than that first book, I needed to go into detail. So I'm talking about each chapter, I break down more and more and more about how it's affecting our mental state and our physical state. And we're being poisoned. That's why it has the word death in it. We're slowly, over a long period of time, poisoning ourselves with this food-like product that they call food.
So my next question would be, how are you defining a processed food? Because people can make the argument and be correct about this, that like a steak is processed, ground beef is processed. Like when you're talking about processed foods, what are you talking about?
Okay, so there's processed food. When the butcher takes the cow, like Bearded Butchers or the one guy that you talk about that shows you how to cut the steak up, that's processing it because you're cutting it off of the cow. And then when they put it into the store and I'm buying it, yes, I may be processing it a little bit. So there's processed food where you're just mixing or churning. Uh, if you're fermenting something, you're processing it. When you cook it, you're processing it. I'm talking about ultra processed food, and that's when they add chemicals, seed oils, which is machine lubricant. They're adding artificial flavors and colors and preservatives and additives for shelf life and to hit the bliss point. They hire scientists, one of my chapters in there, about the bliss point, to reach this dopamine peak in our brain with just the right amount of salt, just the right amount of fat, just the right amount of sugar that goes ding, 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 and you don't know what hit you. Nothing like that exists in nature, but all of a sudden you're like, I want more. And that's their purpose, is to make you buy more and eat more so they make a profit. And in the process, we lose our signal of when we're full and when to stop. And that's when obesity happens and all of the other metabolic issues.
Got it. Okay. Wait, do you talk about the history of some of this stuff in your book, or is that something you've looked into quite a bit? Tell
I
us
do.
about the history of how this stuff kind of started. What were some of the first things that kind of came in as far as the processing? How did that appear? How did that evolve? Was there any malice involved in getting some of these industries started? Like, let's talk about the history of this a little bit.
That's a good point. I don't think it started out maliciously. I think that there are some people in the boardrooms that know what they're doing, but most people, we have the famous doctor. What's his name?
Ansel Keys.
Ansel Keys, who did his 7 country study where they cherry picked information, left a bunch of information out, different countries out, that basically said that, saturated fat causes heart disease. And then in the 1950s, starting with President Eisenhower and many others, all these people started getting heart attacks, but they blamed saturated fat. So we started, sending the message through the medical field, the government, through the food pyramid, that saturated fat was bad. And so the food companies, the big companies that started to conglomerate and get bigger, started to also send this message, put the stamps on the food. This is heart healthy. This is whole grain. This is all natural, which is meaningless. To really repetitively push home these basically these myths, these lies that saturated fat is bad. And they're putting in, like I said about the bliss point, they're adding in sugar. They're adding in fake fibers that are carbohydrates to take the place of that texture that you would get with saturated fat. And then people are getting hooked on it. And the convenience. They're selling convenience. It's fast, it's easy. You can microwave it. You can give it to the kids in their lunchbox. They basically sell it to the mothers of the world. Remember when Crisco came out, they're selling this wonderful, beautiful, shiny white cooking oil that you can put and use on everything. It's just wonderful. And it was marketed, and it just perpetuated itself. They did know what they were doing in the boardrooms, but I think the people under them didn't. They just followed along. It's so hard to really articulate how this became what it is today. But it's this big monster today that's very hard to define. And if we make it simple and just say it's ultra processed and we define what that is, and then we can say, just avoid it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you brought up Crisco. I was going to bring that up specifically. So this is probably the first like truly highly consumed kind of seed oil. There's evidence that different oils were used to cut like olive oil, back in the day, and it kind of made it into that. But Crisco in particular, as I understand it, it was released in 1911. There was a lot of marketing around it where they would send cookbooks to the mothers of America. But also the way I understand it is that the fats and the dairy world in particular at that time was really problematic. Like they were trying to make fats in factories. Maybe there was pollution, or people were getting sick from it, and it wasn't like natural dairy as we kind of know it. It was kind of like dairy meets the industrial revolution, and it's really kind of messy and it's not like working this well. And so the way I understand it is Crisco was kind of promoted as like this was made in a steel vat. It's really clean and white, like you said. It's got a shine on it. And so I see that, and I think like, yeah, maybe there wasn't a lot of malice then because they couldn't have known what the long-term health effects of something like that were. Of course, you could say like, you're taking cotton seeds that are going bad, going rancid, and you have to go through a process to make them. And you could probably deduce that this maybe isn't the best thing to be putting inside our bodies. But, to give them credit, maybe they didn't know at the time and they just did a brilliant job marketing a product where the alternative, the more natural alternative at the time, maybe was something worse.
What would you mean by natural alternative? What would have been the natural alternative?
If I understand it right, it was like rendered tallow or lard or butter just wasn't like the best product at the time.
Oh.
And again, it wasn't like, your grandma churning butter at the farm and, it's clean and out in the open and whatever. It was kind of the transition of making that kind of stuff in a factory and that being problematic. Again, that's the way I understand it. I'm not sure if I have that perfectly, and I'm not sure if that's something you've looked into.
What they do to make seed oils, and this is one of the steps is they deodorize it. Okay, because it's so rancid, it's so foul when all that ultra pressed heat to get that out of the seeds, and they use hexane to extract it, and then it reeks. It is the most putrid smelling odor, so they have to deodorize it. When you deodorize it, you can put that in a jar or bottle when it's all done. That can sit on a shelf for 10 years. 15 years, you open the lid, it is not going to smell bad because they deodorized it. Lard and tallow, like you said, that alternative, it's going to have a small percentage of polyunsaturated fatty acids, 2 or 3%. It's going to have a small percentage of monounsaturated fat, 5 or 6%. The rest is saturated. That mono and poly go bad. They oxidize, and then you take that and you smell it, and it smells bad. I can do it today. I can go to the store and buy a jar of beef tallow. Right? I do something I'm not supposed to do in the store, and I will break the seal. I'll make sure nobody's looking, and I smell it. If it smells like polyurethane, it went bad. And many of the jars stink of polyurethane, and I learned that because I didn't smell. I took the jar home, I opened it up, and I'm like, I can't. My gut says don't eat this. It says beef tallow, I'm a carnivore, and I can't stand the smell. And then I realized it went bad. That percentage of PUFA and mono went bad. So this is why Crisco worked, because they can fry things in it, make things. You open the bag, it doesn't stink.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for elaborating on that. And yeah, with we're starting to use the seed oils. Heart attacks are on the rise from almost nothing to in the 40s and 50s. We're having more of them. They're coming out of nowhere, just striking down dudes in their 50s.
Right.
And we're trying to figure out what it is. And so our friend Dr. Ansel Keys makes the assumption that it's the saturated fat in the diet that causes cholesterol to go up. It's the cholesterol that causes the heart attacks. And that kind of idea takes shape because we were a nation just waiting for answers to a really terrible problem at the time.
Exactly. We were waiting for that, and we needed it. We needed the answer, and there was the answer, and it was the man with the white coat with the stethoscope. I'm going to believe him. For the
Yeah.
longest time, you believe the professionals because I didn't go to medical school. They must be right,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, we
Interesting.
were lied to. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us what you learned about sugar as well. Gary Taubes does an amazing job in his book, The Case Against Sugar, telling the history of how, we didn't have sugar available to us very often and very frequently until, we started, Columbian trade and started getting sugar cane. And then we figured out beets and got more sugar. And then kind of in the 70s, we started switching over to a corn product, high fructose corn syrup
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
replaced a lot of the sugar. Can you tell us a little bit about that story as well?
Well, what I know of high fructose corn syrup is high fructose corn syrup is about 50% fructose and 50% glucose, maybe a little bit more fructose. Table sugar, sucrose, is 50% and 50%. Honey is maybe 60-40. It's the same molecule, but it has more fructose, and the fructose is harder on the liver. The liver has to process the fructose part, and it gets fatty. It's not healthy. It's almost like non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. It's cheap as could be. It's easier to transport because it's a liquid. They can transport that better. And so high fructose corn syrup ended up in all the sodas. And if you look at salad dressings, it's everywhere when you look at the ingredients. And I think that sucrose is a little better. As Dr. Berry says, it's less bad, but it's still fructose and glucose.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. And I'm not sure if you can comment on this. Maybe you even remember this. This was before my day, but I remember learning recently that Coca-Cola in the 80s knew that they wanted to switch their Coke from whatever sugar they were using and they wanted to start using high fructose corn syrup. So to be able to do that, they came up with, like, I guess, a completely different formulation that didn't taste anything
Oh,
like
I
original
remember.
Coke. And it
Yeah.
was like a 5 or 6 month period that they released this Coke. They knew they were going to get a bunch of backlash. So then they could say, okay, sorry, we're going back to the original Coke, and they did that with the high fructose corn syrup version, and so people would more easily adjust back to the old formulation, but now had the cheaper sugar to use. Do you recall that?
I remember that, but I didn't know that's why they did it. I don't think none of us knew that's why they did it. It was all planned. Yeah, I do remember that though. And my soda of choice back in the day was Dr. Pepper. Oh
Okay.
man, I love Dr. Pepper. I put it on ice cream.
Yeah, yeah, and you're talking about Bliss Point, like Coke. Dr. Pepper is another one that has that. It also has more sodium than I think people realize, which goes back to that Bliss Point. It's
Mhm.
why my cyclist buddies would just chug Cokes in bike races. It's got the sugar, but it also has that kind of sodium component,
But
and
not too
can be
much. But not too, they
just
know if
enough.
it's just a little too salty, you won't like it. If it's a little too syrupy, you won't like it. So that's the whole point of the Bliss Point. They have just the right amount to get you hooked.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Let's talk about that specifically. Let's talk about the food companies. I believe you're an expert in this. Talk about the food companies and the addiction model. Maybe we could talk about how the companies that were owning all the cigarettes and producing, tobacco products then acquired a lot of the food companies and started running those same addiction models. Can you tell us a little bit about that from the amount that you understand?
Yeah, they absolutely did that, but we didn't know they did that, obviously, because at the time we didn't know that the cigarette companies were doing that to people. All right, my mother smoked, my uncles smoked, everybody smoked. They had the ashtrays in the house. I grew up in the 70s. It was smoking was part of everything, and when I was a little kid, it was on the commercials on television. They took them off of TV around 1971, so I kind of remember how invasive the commercials and the smoking was. And when that got cleaned up because of lawsuits and the Surgeon General, they started losing money because people started quitting. People started getting healthier. People started realizing this is why I'm coughing. This is why Aunt so and so got emphysema and lung cancer. So they had to do something quick. And so they switched over and, Mondelez, Kraft, Heinz, these Coca-Cola, Hershey, these companies are now owned by Philip Morris and some of the other tobacco companies. They're monster conglomerates now. They've all joined forces, and they're using the same models for advertising to first get the kids in the Saturday morning cartoons. All of the cartoons that I watched when I was a kid, it was all about Fruity Pebbles, Cocoa Pebbles, all the candies, all the cakes, all the good stuff. And it's basically doing the same thing for smoking. We are
Mm.
going to advertise this to death, and we're going to get people to buy our M&Ms, to buy our Skittles, eat the rainbow, and all the models, all the mottos, all the jingles, all the songs that we have memorized in our head. They're ingrained in us. They did that with cigarettes years ago. People used to hum the cigarette commercial tunes. Well, now we're humming the junk food commercial tunes, and people don't know it.
Yeah,
You-
it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, there's something else I'm curious about. I don't know if you write about this or not, but we're recording this episode. It's been a few days after Halloween. The people that I talk to who eat Halloween candy say that it tastes like absolute trash. Like it doesn't even taste the same that it used to, and it's more like waxy or more chemically. And I
Oh,
noticed that kind of trend in a lot of different food products where I would assume if I go back, 30, 40 years and read the ingredients on cornflakes, for example, I imagine there would be far less ingredients, and it's probably not the best thing for me to be eating. But I'll bet there would be like less ingredients that don't have names that I can't pronounce. And when I look at a lot of packaged foods now, it makes me feel stupid because there's these huge words that are all these different chemicals. Do you know how that kind of started getting more and more into the food system? There's like brands of cereal that have like 50, 60 things named that I can't say.
I noticed that too. And if you've seen the memes, I think, on Facebook and everything where they show this is cornflakes in America, this is cornflakes in the United Kingdom. They have 6 ingredients in the UK and we have 30. Why? And I guess we had fewer in the past and we added more for shelf life, for colors. Look at the amount of money they put in the cardboard box to grab your attention, and the food has to look pretty and shiny and sparkly as well. So they're adding more and more chemicals. Basically, it comes down to money. You got to sell it, and they're learning through trials. Well, when we did this, we sold more. Let's do more of that.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Well explained. Yeah, I wanted to ask you also on the colors, the food dyes. How big of a problem do you think food dyes are?
Oh gosh. Well, they're not protein, they're not amino acid saturated fats, they're not vitamins, they're not minerals. What are they? They're chemicals. We're putting chemicals in our body. And yeah, our liver, our kidneys, we can handle some chemicals, we can detox. But when you do this, when you assault your body with all these chemicals every single day, multiple times a day for a decade, ultra processed. That's slowly causing inflammation. Kids are getting obsessive compulsive disorders. They're getting attention deficit disorders. They're getting these disorders that did not happen years ago. And I honestly think it has to do with a lot of the chemicals that are increasing, like you said, in our ultra processed food today. I
Got
saw
it.
it. I saw the increase. I started teaching middle school kids in 1988. That was my first year of teaching. And I don't remember so much hyperactivity back then as I see today in the classroom. I couldn't even keep their attention the last couple of years. Forget it with the cell phone and they're all over the place. And I'm like, hello, I'm up here.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. You hear that from so many people out there, and
Yeah.
just looking at the numbers, and yeah, that's definitely the case. When you were doing research for this book, was there any surprising sources of processed foods that you came across, like maybe health foods that are kind of greenwashed, or maybe juices, or like the few fruit purees that kids eat? Like, were there anything that is kind of marketed as like health food that is just as bad health wise
Well,
as far as ultra processing goes?
well, you said it, and it's the fruit smoothies, the fruit roll-ups, anything that has the word fruit or vegetable on it. We've been sold that you must have so many servings of fruits and vegetables a day. You have to have them. You're not going to get your vitamins and minerals any other way. So here's this product, and this has grape juice in it. This has acai berry whatever in it, and it's all bull. It's just another way to sell sugar. It's another way to keep you addicted because sugar is highly addictive.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yep, no, I agree. And I look out in the world and I want to have a lot of hope around this that people can figure it out. And I got to be honest, I'm pretty pessimistic that people are going to be able to kind of sort this out because it's just so ubiquitous. It's just everywhere. And even people trying to make good decisions, like you said, the fruits, the vegetables, all this stuff have it so far uphill. So again, as you were approaching this book and you were finding out all these nasty things that the processed foods, ultra processed foods are doing to us, how ubiquitous they are in our diets, what are some of the things that you suggest for your readers to kind of address this and make this less of a problem in their lives?
Ask me the question again.
So the question is like, when you're presenting this information for readers, how are you helping to empower them to kind of get over this problem of ultra processed foods or just simply everywhere?
Okay, it's hard. It's very difficult to persuade somebody who doesn't want to hear it. Um, all I can do is put the information. All you can do, all any of the famous people can do, is we can be out there. We can be present. We can make videos. We can have a book, an Audible, to be out there when a person is ready. They're looking for it. And they're all over the internet looking for it. People are typing in YouTube. They're going to find our content. But for me to go up to somebody and persuade them, it's the same as, you know, the Bible. All right, let me have you come to Jesus. You have to accept Jesus as your Savior. Here, listen to me. Listen to me talk. You can't do that. So if you're not ready to listen to the message, it's actually gonna turn them off. They're gonna be pushed the other way. And many of my relatives and friends don't want to hear me, so I don't spew that in. I don't talk to them about it unless they ask.
Yeah.
And I just really think people will find it when they are ready, but we have to put it out there so it can be found.
Yeah, true. That's a really good point. I love that. A good reminder to all of us who want to go out and proselytize the good
Possible.
news
Yeah.
of, the good news of the diet to others. Mistake most of us have all made. So we can assume that the person listening to this, at least if they've listened this far, they
Mhm.
probably have gone through this or they are ready to go through this and start to get the processed foods out. What practical tips and tricks can you help people who are motivated and who do want to step away from this issue?
To find a few YouTube channels. YouTube's a great place to start because some people don't like to read or Audible. If you put on a YouTube, we all have access to the internet, most of us, and you can pull up Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Sean Baker, um, Professor Ben Bickman, Sally K. Norton. There's so many videos teaching us about this. And just start. Everybody that I talk to, people that I listen to on Dave Mack, how did they find this? Well, I started poking around and I found a video. That video led to these videos and this person and that person, and they go down the rabbit hole and they start learning. And I think back of when I started. If you spoke to me, Casey, about 10 years ago, I had none of this knowledge. None of this knowledge. I didn't know any of this. I didn't know what the word leptin was. I never heard the word keto before. So people have a learning curve that they have to overcome. And you do that by just starting to watch some videos or buy some books.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
you have
that's a great idea. Have you noticed a difference in the long-term success for somebody that wants to do this like overnight? They learn about this, they want these foods out right now. We're going to, invade the cupboard and get rid of everything and start from scratch versus the person that does this a little bit more gradually.
All right. So sustainability. This is the most sustainable way of eating because it's our ancestral way of eating. It's the way we as humans are supposed to eat. That means it's easy, and we can do it effortlessly, and we're satisfied, and we're nutritionally, being fed what we need. There's two kinds of people. There's the person who jumps right into the pool, freezing cold, just let me get it over with and jump in. All right, and those are the people. That's the way their brain is organized. I'm going to cut out everything in my kitchen. I'm just going to dive right in, eat meat, cut out all the carbs, sugar, seed oil, and just grin and bear the keto flu and just do it. And some people are successful and they push through everything and they come out 90 days later and they're never going back. Most people, they'll give up because of that, because they had an oxalate dump or they had the keto flu. They quit because it was too hard. And most people they go in very slowly. And I'm going to start first. I'll take out all the seed oils because they're not hard to take out. And then you slowly remove the ultra processed food, the fruits and vegetables, and you slowly transition, which is more sustainable. You give your body a little time to adjust. Think about, drug use. If you take a drug addict and you just stop the drug suddenly, they're going to go through massive withdrawal. So,
And die.
ultra processed food is a drug. really, with all the sugar and stuff. So if you slowly take it out, it hits your body a little easier and you adjust. 90 days is that sweet spot, 60 or 90 days. And then you're like, whoa, I'm not going back. This is amazing. I've lost weight. My back pain, just all these wonderful things happen. And then you start really just, you charge at this diet like a maniac, and you start learning and doing so much more, and you become an advocate for the proper human diet. But when you first start, you're making mistakes, which is a good lesson. Oh, let me try this. Oh, that didn't work. When I first started, I didn't do it right. I made a bunch of mistakes, and then I watched a video. Oh, wow, I'm not supposed to be eating that. All right, let me take that out tomorrow. That's how we learn.
No, I love that. And I hope this isn't an overly obvious question, but for somebody who, they recognize what a carnivore diet is and there's lots of animal products and that sort of thing, what are your favorites to get people on in the beginning? And how do you teach them to kind of eat those foods? Should people be counting things or measuring things? Like how do people know where to jump in and what things to start? If they're going to dabble, they're going to be a little bit more gradual about things. They're going to start to take out some of the processed foods. By the nature of it, it means you've got to eat something, you got to eat something else. So what are the things that you kind of coach people on as far as like, these are the foods that you should eat and this is the way you should eat them?
Eggs, ground beef, ribeyes. Find what you love in the beef, lamb, pork, poultry, fish, and eggs, in all those categories. And if you love it, just eat it. Because if it's sustainable, it's because you enjoy it and you like it, and you're getting all your nutrition from that. So I say eggs and ground beef to start out with. And if you like, experiment with how you like to cook it. I never used to eat raw meat, and now I'm eating close to raw. I like a black and blue steak where I sear it on the outside with my bighorn. Love it. And I flip it real quick. And then I cut into it. I let it rest. I cut into it, and it looks like sashimi. The inside, oh
Yeah.
my God, and the inside's cold almost. And there's nothing better. But I didn't used to like that, and I didn't even eat that way for years. So a person needs to experiment. Just my favorite is an egg yolk in ground beef with salt. Just let the warm ground beef cook the egg yolk a little bit, and it becomes like a cream sauce. Whatever you love. Some people hate eggs. Everybody's different.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I like that you say you've got the flexibility to eat whatever sounds good, but the base should be that ground beef, eggs, somewhere in there, ruminant animals, probably not going to get the same response if you're doing chicken breast, pork. Like those are all good things that you can add, but that's not really like the foundation that you want to see people on.
Yeah, and then I don't go into all the details about pork and poultry and the monogastric stomach and the omega-6s, because that's just too high up above. They don't, it'll turn people off. So go ahead and have your chicken. Eat the skin, eat the legs, eat the drumsticks. Don't have as much of the breast. Have bacon. Eat the bacon. Right. I don't have a lot of that now because I know the facts about the omegas, the omega fats, and I want it to be as close to a 1-to-1. But you don't say that to people to start out with, or else it turns them off and they don't want to do the diet. Because in the end, that chicken and that pork is far superior than that cereal and that mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. And then just on the practical level, like you and I have been in this space for a long time. We've seen a lot of people doing this. We've helped a lot of people do this. You just don't see that somebody is like eating exclusively bacon. They're eating exclusively chicken breast. Like nobody does that. It's like a garnish. It's something you have when it sounds good and you have a little, but most people end up gravitating towards the other things that you mentioned already, the red meat and the eggs, when somebody can tolerate eggs or not. So yeah, it's just one of those things you just never see be a real issue for people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not really an issue. We don't
Yeah.
just eat like the people they show that eat the whole stick of butter. Nobody really does that.
You
They're
don't
just
do that.
doing that for the video.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had a bite of butter from time to time and it's really tasty and I've never eaten a whole stick and I don't know anybody else who has ever done that. So
Right.
yeah, I'd like that you brought that up. Other parts of the carnivore lifestyle that you like to promote, what are some of the big ones?
Um, Oh gosh, it's well. Number one is the what you put in your mouth. The food you put in your mouth is number one. Number two will be your environment. Okay, the Teflon pans, get rid of them. Plastic that you cook in, stop that. Um, the deodorant that you put on under your arm, the lotions you put on your skin for women, the makeup they put on. There's all these chemicals that we can very easily just take out of our lives. And we don't have to do it all at once. You can replace things little by little. It makes a huge difference in the big picture when you take out all the toxins. And there's a lot. I did a video on a list of all the toxins other than food that you can take out of your life to improve your, even air fresheners in your house and candles that are burning. And there's so much that you can do that people don't think about that improve your health. And I call that part of the carnivore lifestyle as well, even though that's not food.
Yeah. No, what about exercise?
Oh, exercise. We have to move. We have to move our muscles. We have to, you know this, you're the specialist on this. uh, I go to the gym almost every day. I try to work every muscle group. I listen to different videos and learn. I don't know if it was yours or no, I think it was Dr. Chafee on one of them. I listened to the specialists. I was doing it all wrong. I'm like, oh, the next day I went in and I changed what I did. I didn't work out to failure. This guy talked about not working to failure, but doing more sets and less rests. And, just I love learning and applying new information. Movement's important. It sends the message to the different parts of our body that those parts of our body are important. And as you age, as I am older than you are, muscle is more important. The more muscle you have, the more you're going to be as you get older. The better you're going to be. I'm going to bend down. I'm going to lift up. I could do things in my 80s and 90s if I have more muscle mass. So I'm working on keeping my muscle. I'm not huge, but I'm trying. I am.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, it looks good, man.
I'm working on it, but I feel good about myself. I look in the mirror. Hey, Casey, I look in the mirror nowadays, when I'm getting dressed, I'm like, damn, damn, I look pretty damn good. I never said that my whole life. Never said that my whole life. So this diet, this lifestyle is working, and it's for life.
Man, I love that. Sorry for the listeners. Somebody called me. I have my phone on Do Not Disturb. I always do that on interviews, and the beeping. I don't know how somebody's call got through, but anyway. So I do want to ask you. We did recently host Fred Hahn, who talks about strength training and pushing to failure. Is that something? Was that maybe one of the episodes you listened to? And
I watched that episode and I listened to it, and then it was something from Dr. Anthony Chafee. He had
got
on
it.
a gentleman, and he promoted not pushing to failure. Or he promoted both. He talked about both. And he talked about Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the 70s and all these different things. And he was talking about doing very slow movements, slower on the down and faster on the up, and not resting as much in between so that you can tax that muscle, and then letting that rest for a couple days. A lot of people go right at it the next day. Resting is when the muscle grows. He went into so much detail. So it was a different episode, but hey, I learned so much from so many different
Great.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, I love learning about that stuff as well. So yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out. I really appreciate that. I love the different ideas around strength training. And then my final question to you, I don't think I've ever asked you this. One of my clients and I were talking today about the spirituality side of the diet, and she was wondering, like, as she's been changing her diet, she's been moving more towards carnivore. It's had amazing results for lots of different things in her life, but she started talking about spirituality, and regardless of any kind of like, church or religion, denomination, whatever. What can you comment as far as like eating in this particular way, a carnivore diet, an animal-based diet, however you want to call it, and your innate, spirituality or gratitude? We've already been talking about how your energy improves and your mental clarity improves. Can you comment on things that you've observed as far as eating a carnivore diet and spirituality?
Okay. I don't want to cross into religion too much, but because I try to stay away from religion and politics when I'm dealing with the public, because you're always going to get somebody angry and fired up. But basically, one of the pillars of really good health is spirituality. If you want to call it prayer, or you can call it meditation, or gratitude, it's powerful because you're focusing on the positive. I write down. I do a T-bar and I write down all the things for which I'm grateful, and the list gets longer. And when I'm done, I'm happy. I'm like, wow, I've got so much going for me. And you feel good. healthy chemicals shoot through your body when you start focusing on the good. That can be prayer. If you believe in a monotheistic God, whether you're Jewish or Muslim or Christian, or one of the Christian denominations, or if Mormon or I don't want to push any religion out. It's up to the person's. If it's important to you, and it helps you remain grateful and positive, that's powerful. So powerful. Um, I think religion plays a huge role in, or your belief system plays a huge role in how you eat. I personally believe that my body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. That's me personally. And so I'm going to take care of it. And it's funny, I see some people saying that, and yet I look at their bodies and they don't look that good because they're just spewing out what they learned in scripture. But when you live it, it has a lot more meaning. Um, so I'll just leave it there. I do believe it's a pillar. It's a very important pillar, no matter what you call it, whether it's religion or meditation, mindfulness. Some people call it mindfulness, deep breathing, looking at nature and smiling and just appreciating creation.
Yeah, I think whatever outlet somebody chooses, like you mentioned, like the meditation or the deep breathing or whatever, when you get that diet piece right, you're more likely to do any of those things that you decide is going to fit with you, whether that is a certain religion or belief system or prayer or whatever it is. I observe so many times that like people start eating in this way and they just innately feel closer to the earth,
Yeah.
closer to the animals, closer to nature, however you want to say that. And so I just wanted to get your opinion about that. So I really appreciate that. John, looking forward so much to consuming this book. And yeah, I know you've done an amazing job writing it. It was so fun to chat about it today. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. I just really appreciate you and all the energy you bring to our conversations. For now, where can people go to find you and connect with you and your work? And where can people go to pick up your books?
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm the Carnivore Teacher Alpha on YouTube. I also shoot my daily teaching videos. They're 3 to 7 minute videos I put out every single day on YouTube. They also go to Facebook. They go to X, Instagram, Threads, and LinkedIn and Reddit. I just push them to all the different sites. Every Sunday, my friends in the United Kingdom, George and Stephanie, we do Carnivore Sunday School. It's not religious, even though it says Sunday School. And we have a special guest every Sunday. You're welcome to come on. Let me know if you'd like to come on as a guest. And my book, my two books, the current one that you see on the screen there, Processed to Death, is on Amazon and Audible. You can get the Kindle, the hardback, the softback, or the Audible on there. And I'm going to Hack Your Health in a couple of days. I wish you were coming. So
Amazing.
many
I'm
of
so
my
jealous.
friends from the last one aren't coming to this one because it's harder to get to, I think, because it's in Tampa. I'm just driving over. It's a 4 hour drive. I'm really psyched to go there and talk to my friends because one of the things we didn't talk about is so important, and that's community, connection, where we encourage one another and hug each other and talk and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Give everybody big hugs for us while you are there at Hack Your Health. That sounds amazing. And you will not find me in a Sunday school, let me tell you, but that sounds one that I would love to
Okay.
be a part of. So, John, LaSpina, thank you so very much for everything that you contribute to this community. And thank you so very much for being on our show again today. We really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me, Casey.
Absolutely. It was such an honor. And this has been another episode of Boundless Body Radio.